that personality who delivered the treasure of Prema Bhakti, who was so intense with compassion, where is such a personality to be found as Sri Acharya Thakur, Srinivas Acharya?
Where are the saviors of the fallen souls? Where is Brahma? Where is Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami? Where is Raghunath Das to be found?
Which verse is it?
There are,
I don't know on the right page, am I?
yes,
Yes,
oh,
I got
no, you're just nearby.
yes.
That's the one.
Thank you very much, thank you. Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta Goswamis? Where am I to find Krishnadas Kaviraj now? All at once they have gone to join Lord Gauranga, the great dancer.
To reach such a perfect personality as Lord Chaitanya, I can only break my head against the stone in the anguish of separation.
They have all gone off together in their own pastimes, Narottam Das Thakur says. Unable to obtain their association, I must simply weep.
Heart-rending.
I love that.
Absolutely heart-rending.
Where are they?
So in place of the normal class, today's a disappearance anniversary of Srila Bhakti Rakha Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, Amavasya, the dark moon, as he disappeared. The moon hid his face, and then almost left. And, you know. Okay,
You got that?
oh, just some notes.
Are you going to read that, Maharaj?
Well, it was only notes.
I need
It was just remembrances.
put my other
Can you
one
hear
in,
okay?
so I
Yeah,
can
yeah.
hear. And one in something, both out, something, both into.
Have you got them in?
Now I'm hearing with both.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, every devotee or disciple who follows Srila Guru Maharaj have their own memories, and of course, they're very strong memories, even though perhaps the details, certain particular details tend to fade with time, but the general impression of Srila Guru Maharaj and his presence and his association is very strong, and that remains, that's very definite, and that continues, I'm sure, into infinity or into eternity. Like we say, a samskara, samskara is an impression, you get a strong impression that molds and creates your future, development. So we know, glories of Srila Guru Maharaj, as in his glorification prayer, are very great, very great. Susiddhanta Nidhim. The thing was, he was a very a deep understanding of the Siddhanta. Nidhim is like an ocean. So when you dive in the ocean, the deeper you dive, you find the pearls of great wisdom in the ocean depths. And there's always newer things. It's not static. So this is the ever-increasing ocean, Anandam Buddhivardhanam. And Srila Guru Maharaj was Shastra Nipun, is the name he was given, a title really, by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, means able to draw out ever new meanings and understandings from the Shastra. Because the scripture is, as we know, is on different levels. There's the literal meaning of the words, in Sanskrit. And that's one meaning, but that's not always so clear. So then there are other meanings. For example, there would be we call it the esoteric or more metaphorical meaning. Then there's the meaning that it might have for each individual person as they experience it and realize it. Then there's the meaning it has from Krishna's, from the Lord's point of view. So there are very many levels. It's not just on one level. That's why sometimes people reading the scripture, they can't understand certain parts, or certain parts seem to be opposing, paradoxes, or giving actually what seems to be apparently opposite meanings. But so the only way to harmonize this is by the hearing from a great soul, such as Srila Sridhar Maharaj, because Otherwise you could study the Vedas for years and years together and not necessarily get a very clear clue or direction of the way we're supposed to be going in, because each particular path, the karma, the jnana, the yoga, etc., they're all praised in different ways. But what is the ultimate? And so what is the meaning of bhakti? That's what we're trying to understand. What is it and how is it? And like when Yudhisthira Maharaj was asked 100 questions by the bird, it was actually, I think it was Indra, or was it Yamaraj, I believe, and took the form of a bird, and it was a test. And the test was that if he could answer the 100 questions well, properly, then the other brothers and Draupadi would live. They were passed out by the side of the lake. So these questions were going on, and there were many questions. You know, the famous one is, what's the most amazing thing? And he answered, the most amazing thing in the world is that everybody's dying. We see that, we know that, we have experience of that, directly, indirectly. Still a person thinking, no, that's not for me. I won't die. No, that's, you know, this idea. This is the most amazing. He said, yes, you've answered correctly. Then one was, what's the greatest quality a person can have? Answer was contentment. There's so many questions, but one of them was, what is Dharma? What is Dharma, you see? So Dharma, if we're saying Siddhanta or Dharma, but what is it and how to understand that ultimately, Dhammastu Guyam, it means it's hidden. It's a hidden thing. It's not so easy to find out. But ultimately, it is discovered in the heart. Mahajano yena gata swapanta. The path is to follow the Mahajans, because they'll reveal the true meaning of Dharma and Siddhanta from their understanding and their realization. So Srila Guru Maharaj was like that. He was sort of like the go-to person, you know, for any question on Siddhanta, from all the devotees, from different mats, different places. Especially after Srila Saraswati Thakur's leaving, then, you know, that if you wanted a definitive final answer, sort of undisputable, then you go to Sridhar Maharaj. And that was usually there wasn't something like abstract or vague, you know, he was known a person of very sound common sense, as that man said, deep intelligence, sound common sense, and disinterested nature. So it's necessary to have a disinterested nature to be able to give advice like that, without any prejudice, you know, one side or the other, or any personal sort of take on the matter. So he was like that, and then, of course, just by his own person, again, it's an understanding, achincha beda bhed, you know, that we understand from the point of view of the disciple, his Gurudev, like Srila Guru Maharaj, is Nitya Siddha. But Srila Guru Maharaj used to say, oh, I think I learnt these things in my previous life. He used to say like that. For example, about the Gayatri Mantra and other things. He told actually one time he had a revelation of Gayatri when he was sitting under a tree in Navadvip. And, you know, the inner meaning of Gayatri, that he gave that explanation that came to him then, which he then explained. Because he was meditating on the what has been said by Jiva Goswami and Bhaktivinoda Thakur about some deeper meaning of Gayatri than is usually said or thought. And that came to him then. The fruits of meditation, like that. And he himself personally was quite very exalted in his person. I mean, even astrologically, he had many exalted planets. He had exalted Mercury. You can tell that by his writings. You know, the meter, the rhyming, like in the Premadamadev Stotram, you know, very beautiful. Condensing all that knowledge, how many thousands of verses, Chaitanya Charitamrita, into like 70 verses, giving the Siddhanta there for a very compressed way. As Kaviraj Goswami says himself, concise truth, No, essential truth, concisely expressed, is true eloquence. So he was also like that. And he also, I think, from my point of view, he softened the Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he gave the background and the idea about Krishna consciousness being the Jaiva Dharma of everyone, all souls, not just confined to India, or Indian philosophy or religion, or Indian people or something. And that was then put practically into effect by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati with the Gaudiya Math. But if you read, as we know, Saraswati Thakur's writings, and his strictness and his exclusiveness and absolutism, where he writes about Krishna consciousness, the Gaudiya Math come to declare war, not just against all other existing, not just against Maya, right, but against all other existing conceptions of religion like this. As well as Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very broad and liberal and inclusive. My father's house has many mansions on the way to God, to Krishna, as he said in his beautiful poem in Gitanjali. Some worship the Lord this way, with their hands in this posture, or in the yoga posture, or the shirt hanging in the back, or the hands like this, but all are actually worshipping the darling son of Yashoda, Nanda and Yashoda, Gopal, Krishna of Vrindavan. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati is very exclusive, and then Srila Guru Maharaj is kind of a synthesis, although he's very much specifically in the way of Srila Saraswati Thakur as his guru, directly in that sense. Of course, his appreciation of Bhaktivinoda was unequal, as he wrote that poem glorifying Bhaktivinoda Thakur on his disappearance day, which Saraswati Thakur said, he has not written this, Bhaktivinoda has written this through him. And he said, I think that was the clue to Guru Maharaj's affection for me, was that I was able to please him by that devotion and love and understanding of the greatness of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who was everything for Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, even though formally he was disciple by Diksha of Gaurkishore Das Babaji, but his whole understanding and everything was from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And he always referred to him as Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He never said, my father, like this. So, but Srila Guru Maharaj, he sweetened, he very much sweetened the kind of, might seem to us in the present day a little harsh, Saraswati Thakur's explanation of things. And he gave that but very charming and sweet by his explanations, that actually sweetness and beauty and love is the ultimate, destination. And all these other things are to go there, to get there. And that is the Ragamag, relationship with Krishna. So, these are some of the things I just wrote down. And would you say anything if you want? If you like to, or otherwise I can read. Normally it's on the appearance day, that we do the eulogies. But there's no restriction, of course. No restriction.
I was just thinking about, of course, that Srila Guru Maharaj left his own disciple to represent his concept as well. And
Sure.
As much as Guru Maharaj was a strict follower of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, so he managed to groom a perfect disciple himself in Srila Govinda Maharaj. And how would you sort of define the way he represented Guru Maharaj's conclusion in regards to what you said, like that Guru Maharaj sort of softened Saraswati Thakur's conclusion in a sense, if you like?
Well, probably to another step there as well. Again, synthesizing the exclusiveness of Krishna consciousness, with the all-inclusiveness of it, both together,
Exactly, like a divine team, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
And of course Swami Maharaj is also there, always in the background, isn't it? You know, with his sort of his approach also. Again, which was kind of a synthesis, you know, the exclusiveness and the inclusiveness both together. So yes, very good point, yeah. That's saying, you know, like Srila Guru Maharaj's gift, you know, is Govinda Maharaj, of course, carrying on.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I was going to play this and then say what he's saying. It's actually written there, so I
Outside
need to do
the
that.
bedroom, is it? Or?
So I play a bit then. You ready? You want to see it?
Yeah, let's go. Go.
Okay, there's the. Let me just. I don't want to turn it off.
Yeah.
No, she just
So
on the
sweet.
mouse.
Oh, the mouse. Oh,
Yeah, just click.
again.
Oh, you need to press get into the center there with your mouse.
Oh,
Give him the
that's
mouse.
the window,
You do,
isn't
you do.
it, round the
Let's
side
just
of the
out.
Oh.
Jesus, no, why
What
did
have you
that?
done?
I don't know.
The window at the side.
I'm gonna go this way. You know.
Oh, of course.
Double click the screen.
Can you make it big?
Or is it? Or is it out?
Where's big screen?
Big?
Just go back to the screen. Double click it and
Double click.
I am.
Oh,
Of a particular plane.
well, it's okay.
The higher plane is necessary to harmonize. Thesis,
Oh,
synthesis.
that's just what we were saying, right?
There must be something empty. Cannot
Synthesis.
be some opposition, some opposite conception. Every statement, some opposition. And to harmonize that. Hegel says that is the process of progress. Process of progress. Progress means this. Whatever there will be, some opposition, conception of opposition, possibility. The possibility of opposition, and then to away with the opposition, greater harmony is necessary. Highest type of harmony is so. The diversity ultimately helps it. The opposition helps the main flow. Not only harmonized, but it enhances the beauty of the harmony. When harmony is successful, then it becomes the necessity of beauty. The necessity of beauty and harmony are the same thing. Beauty, harmony can perhaps used in the sound world, and beauty in the eye world, eye and ear. But anyhow, the opposition enhances the beauty. If there would not be any diversity, then beauty was not possible. Different things will be, and they will be harmonized, and that is beauty. Without. Otherwise it will be jumbled together, and it becomes one more. So Krishna represents beauty, and his harmonizing capacity supersedes everything. Even stealing is beautiful, lying is beautiful, whatever he does, his wickedness is also beautiful. The conception of the greatest harmony, that he can harmonize anything and everything. Nothing can be there which he cannot harmonize. So the opposition, what is very objectionable, the stealing, the lying, debauchery, so to say, is inconceivable in him, all harmonized. All harmonized, so sweet. No enemy. Enemy also becomes friend in harmony. Beauty means that. Harmony means that. Not afraid, Abdayam. Bhayam Ditya Vinvi Satasya. The origin of fear only comes from the lack of harmony. Fear borns from disappointment of harmony. Otherwise, no place of any fear. Ditya bhayam, dityavi. Undesirability is represented in Sanskrit as bhayam. Bhaya means apprehension. Apprehension, fear, originates from lack of harmony. Bhayam ditya vinivishatasya, second interest. Common interest, one interest. If we can reduce many interests into one interest, as parts of one interest, then there is harmony, no fear. Only fear from separate interest. Clash between separate interest. But if that can be linked in common interest, no fear. Bhayam ditya vinivishatasya. Ishadapi tusya vipujyayu smriti. The first stage that we are afraid, we have got apprehension. Why? Ditya, we are suffering from the mania of second interest, separate interest. So we are afraid, we have got apprehension. Ditya Vinisa, Ishadapi tusya. When does it come to effect? To take place. This apprehension, Ishadapi tusya. When we deviate from the common master, idea of common master, common controller, common guardian, then only we suffer from apprehension. The vyadhi, the disease of apprehension, arises only when we lose, we separate ourselves from the common controller, common guardian of all. Ishadapi, the master consciousness, that we have got a master, we have got a controller, and he is common to all. And he is our interest represented there, in that common master. Ishadgyan, I have got my master, and he is to look after that, and he is master of all. So no apprehension. So deviation from the consciousness of a common master, common guardian, the apprehension comes to us. Ishadapi tusya vipujyayo asmriti, and then when deviated, one is minus of the common guardian, then before joy he comes in a very unfavorable circumstances. Losing that common master consciousness, he comes in a very dreadful position before joy. Before joy, asmati, and forgets, he is puzzled and forgets his own selfish self, real self and the self-interest, also he loses. There is no joy of osmosis. He's beside himself. Osmosis. Tammayatu vivabhajittam. Then if he can come, he comes to know anyhow that the help of the external sadhu. That is his Maya. Then who can control the Maya? He does not go to fight with Maya, illusion, misconception, the forgetfulness of the center, the forgetfulness of the guardian. And he appeals to the guardian himself. If we fall on the ground, with the help of the ground we stand again. So, our forgetfulness of our guardian, that is the cause of all the disasters in which I find ourselves. And again, and the only way to get out of to be reinstated in that idea of guardian, common guardianship. And that is affected by the sadhus, the normal, that are not deviated from God consciousness. With their help, we are to appeal to that all-controlling agency, and then we can again be reinstated in that Ishogyan, that I have got my master. I have got my master, to whom, in whose holy feet I am to take shelter. I am to surrender to my master. The life of surrender again comes. We take and everything is there. Only we shall be always be conscious of our guardian, the highest harmonizer. The problem is one, only one problem, that we deviate from the consciousness of our guardian, and only way to get out of the trouble to become conscious of our common guardian. That is God consciousness, Krishna consciousness. Back to God, back to home, back to Godhead. The only one problem, we are deviated from Godhead, and we shall try to go towards Godhead. We shall go back to Godhead. The only one word, that is necessary, what is necessary. Back to Godhead. Back to home. Back to God, back to home. The general problem is this. And by so many variegated ways that is to be promoted. But the main thing is this. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Gaur, the Krishna consciousness, the center of highest harmony. Highest harmony.
Is that okay? Do you have any questions? Or?
It's like you just 1 minute left of it.
Is it? I thought I was just trying to stop it at a convenient place when it was. It's just a clip, is it, from YouTube?
Isn't that part?
Harmony is Krishna, harmony is our guardian, harmony is our mother, that is their guardian, harmony is our master. That is sweetness, that is love. No enemy, no apprehension. I will be devoured by the inauspicious element around. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare
I have a question because you were speaking about the principle of harmony.
Yeah,
Harmony?
Yes.
To stop, and then we can good to see, make sure we've sort of like been able to imbibe what he's saying. Yeah. It was interesting, for the first time I saw that verse he was quoting, Dvitiyanabi Eveshatashat, that verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, because Guru Maharaj was talking about the separate interest and local interest, as opposed to the common interest or the universal interest. But it's actually in the Sanskrit, Dvi means two, divided. Yeah. So it's coming from there. Is two, from the one coming to two, to divided. And actually the Diablo, Diablo, the devil, Di means two. He's the one who divides, who separates. Yeah. So that's very much in his interest. In his interest to do that, to go on dividing, separating. It's everywhere.
So
In spiritual missions also, yeah.
the idea by acquiring a separate interest, one starts to acquire fear,
Yes,
because the whole environment is not moving according to your will.
yes, exactly. It's not moving according to your will and your taste. And then you think it's your enemy, but then we're saying that the environment is our friend, something like that. If everything coming as the will of the Lord, whatever happens immediately is coming in our front, is the will of the Lord for us. So sometimes that's difficult, that's hard, it's painful, It's like if a sculptor is making a statue, there's a raw block of stone, they're chipping away with a chisel. But actually what they're doing is they're revealing what is inside already existing, that beautiful form or figure of the statue. But in the process of the chipping, the person could think, oh, this is very painful, I'm being attacked, or I'm being killed, But yes, so it's a beautiful conception to keep in mind, the ideal, and move towards it, yeah. And then interesting, the point he made there was the difference between Advaya Gyan, in that verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, saying, the transcendentalists, the three types, to realize about Brahman, to realize about Paramatma, and then Bhagavan. So this is all Advaya Gyan. All three realizations are God realization, but there's, from the absolute viewpoint, there's gradation. But each person in their own realization of their final goal, Brahman or Paramatma or Bhagavan, will subjectively be experiencing that as the ultimate. It was very difficult to tell the Jnani, the Brahman realization, that there is more than that, in that sense. Because they're having God realization, and it is God realization, but there's gradation. So, the other point he was making there, that the Advaya Gyan and this absolute, the will and flow of Leela, of the Lord, where you have infinite number of diverse elements, but all harmonized. And that's the beauty. Yeah, that's the beauty. And the other one is where everything to come to one and negate everything and take out everything and minus everything. Because say that the variety is causing, the variety itself is causing the suffering, the apprehension, the fear. It's not that. It's not the variety is causing that. It's the variety separated from the one, from the one interest. And so then they want to make everything to be zero. And then he says that's like Brahman, where everything's just jumbled together, like in a big blancmange, just like mix it all together. And then all just becomes, all the variety's gone. It's just like a mass, And then that's supposed to be the highest harmony, according to them. But no, you can keep all the variety, the individuality, everything in harmonized, yeah.
Leela, is it also considered as harmony? Because it is a movement in a way.
Yeah.
And different type of relationships.
Yes.
You can hear that there's so many also oppositions.
Yes, opposition, because love moves in a crooked way, doesn't go in a straight way. So the crooked way means it's like this, it's like a wave. It's not like a line, it's a wave. So you have, the meeting and the separation, the light and the dark, you know. And each time is the dark and the light, which seem to be opposites. They're combining and making a new synthesis, and then the opposition coming and a new synthesis, and increasing. It's beautiful, yeah.
But then, if you are perceiving thesis, then from your perspective, antithesis would be disharmony.
Yeah.
And here you have to accommodate such thing as thesis, antithesis, and synthesis, all three elements as harmony, which can be very difficult if you are.
Yeah, that's right. Because
It's all auspicious. It's all wonderful.
that's
In
right.
that
That's
nature,
right.
In that form, the ultimate form, and it's all necessary, and because it's
That's
all
true.
there. Everything
That's
is
true.
there.
But
It must
That's
be
true.
always
What
there.
Prabhu is saying, though, while the process is going on in different stages, may feel to us as different than that, you know, that we're because we can't see the whole picture, the whole thing, you know, which is, you know, so. But we know that, at least theoretically, we know that, as Guru Maharaj says, we keep the ideal, you know, above our head, and that's the main thing. Yeah, of course, yeah.
And the idea of surrender coming, the idea of surrender, how could it be related to this topic? When I perceive so many things which I perceive as disharmonious,
Yeah.
but then deeper I realize that it is a part of higher harmony which I'm not capable of perceiving.
Yeah. So then in that case, we always have to do our own duty. You see, we can't sort of like expand our vision and think we can theoretically understand it, but we have our duty in our front, and we just do that. You know, like in the school, the boy or girl, they're studying, and they have to do the lesson of where they are, and then when they come to that exam at the end of the term, then passing that, they will naturally progress into the next higher class. So they cannot be thinking all the time, like, if I'm studying, you know, arithmetic, I have to do that thoroughly and complete that and carry on. I can't be thinking about statistics or other higher forms of mathematics, you know. So that's karmanavadikaraste, mafaleshu kadasha. Do your duty and leave the result to the Lord. Yeah. So it's very practical, you know, it's not abstract. Living in the plane of abstract philosophy. It's do your duty, what is coming in your front. You do that. And that verse in the Gita, which is, of course, it's karma mishra bhakti. It's not ananya bhakti, but it's a very good, and it's like a middle position, you know, when the Lord says yad karoshi, and it's also very wonderfully poetic verse. It is yad karoshi, yat ashnasi, yaj jahosi, tadasi yat, yat tapasasi kontya, tad kurushva mad arpanam. Yad karoshi, whatever you do, yat ashnasi, whatever you eat, yaj jahosi, whatever you offer or give, how's it go? Yajosi, dadasi yat, all of that, yat tapasyasi kontya, and whatever, you can say vow or austerity or penance or thing you undertake, self-sacrifice you undertake, tad kurushva madhapna, do all that as an offering to me. You know, that's what we can do and what we can do. Because when the fitness for higher devotion will come, then it will come, and not before that. So while we're going through anartha nibriti stage, clearing stage, that's what we can do. That's all we can do. So we have many things which are we think as in the terms of like separate interest or self-interest or local interest. Yeah, we have that. So if we have that, there's no point denying it, pretending it's not there, and saying, oh, I'm trying to do raga bhakti, but all that's there, you know, in the background, waiting to get its satisfaction. The best thing to do is to take that thing, you know, unfit as it is and impure to what degree it is, and try and engage it, offer it, engage it. Srila Prabhupada says dovetailing your propensities in towards the service of the Lord, then everything will be purified. And that's the only way to, because only by acting without attachment for the result is the heart purified, and you can realize the self, your Atma. Then from there, you know, Atma to Paramatma. Then the next stage is Paramatma Tatma, and then to pure devotion, you know. So it's like now the competition, Prabhu. Sorry. Any points? What's the next thing? Oh,
Sure. Is it, are we watching the rest of
well,
this?
can do, yeah. But
Are we going for Arctic now?
when is your Arti, Prabhu? 10 minutes.
You got just 10 minutes then?
Yeah.
What's that now? Nada.
I was wondering if you could explain how that applies practically, what you were explaining.
What does he say?
Completely missed the point. Sorry.
He wants to understand how to practically understand this principle of harmony.
How practically to understand what is the principle of harmony. What is the meaning of harmony, you know?
Yes?
Harmony means what? Your conception? What is harmony?
Harmony, strictly speaking, is a musical term, and it refers to different musical tones which are in balance, and they
So
sound.
different sound is tuned to one. That is harmony. Different different sound instruments, different tone from different land. Many plural is connected with one and giving some sweet, on the whole giving some sweet and soothing feeling of sentiment. That is harmony. There must be different things, different kind of sounds from different kind of instruments and different kinds of voice. That is harmony. As you see, the heart, the planets, they are moving in their own way. And again, they are connected with another movement, another force. The moon is moving around the earth. There are so many Upagraha planets are moving around another planet. Upagraha means just moon to the earth. So in Brihaspati, in Shani Graha, there are so many sub-planets, planets. They are moving in their own way. With all those movements, Earth is moving around the sun. So many others moving. In this way, in 1 year, Earth is circumambulating the sun. There is Brihaspati others, in 2 or 4 years or 12 years, Brihaspati completes its round around the sun. Again, there is a time when everyone can complete his 1 year movement. This you know the LCM, mathematics, LCM, BCM, do you know?
LCM.
LCM, to find a common.
Lowest common multiplier. Yes.
A common. So many figures will meet their common divided. Some 5 times, some 10 times, some 100 times. So that they meet at one point. In this way, when variety meets in one point. He represents in one, all meet in one. That is harmony. Unity meeting unity. And different plane, in the plane of sound, in the plane of color, in the plane of movement. It may be of different phases, but many meets one in one point. That is harmony. Just as the so many branches of the tree, they meet in the trunk. The trunk harmonizes so many branches. The tree harmonizes so many leaves. In this way, the beauty, the harmony, the unity, and many similar words that can be present. The master, the guardian, the controller, the well-wisher, in different phases it may be applied. Many in one. Many represented in one point. And interest of the many when represented in one place. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Gaur Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol. Nijai Gaur Hari Bol, Nijai Gaur.
Conclusion apparently before the answer. Pretty much straight away.
Please do that.
Jai Shri Bhakti Shri Maharaj. Jai.
What are we singing now?
Yes.
Luckily, I would have to go to Midanga. It's quite safe.
So lots of redundant plays today. 3 of them.
Not this up just yet. Can I put this on? Which one?
That's what they were.
Oh, okay.
Jai Shri Bhakti Tridandi Goswami Sripad Bhava Mahotsav Ki Jai.
Thank you.
Go!